much you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends, and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be. I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. There's rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love. Because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
Take a one-way ride, steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to disappear for a night, just to give in to the need and leave it all behind.
'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
Good morning, folks. Welcome to Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. I am Rich Barris, the People's Pundit, your host. All right, today we're finally getting to HR 1, like the most requested topic to speak about in a month, or over a month at least. But there is a lot going on, so we'll try to touch on a lot of other stuff. You have the shooting in Atlanta. That is a blue city in a very purple state now. So you're going to have media try to help Democrats get that gun control bill passed in the Senate that they passed in the House. So that's what's going on there. I don't want to leave that out. But HR 1 is next, folks. Make no mistake about it. HR 1 is next. And we have to dissect what's going into HR 1 and what it means. Because there is a lot that is legal that we needed to wait for some legal opinion on. I'm not a lawyer. And then there's a lot that obviously has to do with how elections are conducted and what it means for how it will impact elections going forward, right? And speaking of Georgia, by the way, I told you all about, I say his name bad, all right, but you see it on the ticker down below. I told you all about F word, all right, the Deputy Secretary of State. I told you about Gabe. I told you all about those characters. Those aren't Republicans like you are Republicans. They knew full well what was going on in Georgia in November and after November. They understood what signature verification meant. They understood what was going on in Fulton County. They understood what was going on in that entire area, that entire region of the state and elsewhere. They just didn't care because it was Donald Trump. They thought Perdue was going to win. They didn't know about Loeffler, but they were confident that Trump was dragging down David Perdue. They were fully aware that those signatures were not verified, folks. And by the way, this video will be a big risk. It's got HR 1 in the title. I'm sure people are going to watch it. And what I'm going to say is going to be a bit risky here, but it is what it is. Because this is reality. We had a judge in Michigan flatly tell Jocelyn, you broke the law. This is the Secretary of State who lied to PolitiFact about us and the work we were doing. This is the Secretary of State who lied to all the other media outlets who raced to contact her to quickly debunk the work we were doing. But no matter what Jocelyn told them, she broke the law and changed the rules before the election universally, probably because, like everybody else, Mark Zuckerberg stuffed her pockets and her friends' pockets with money. Which is another story right now, by the way, on Project Veritas. This is what happened. I read the names on air. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of them. Ballots went out to people, not even to people. Ballots went out in the names of records that should never have received requests and or ballots. Many of those, way too many, thousands of them in that state, were returned to their local clerks. Many of them, as a percentage, were returned in the month of September and in the weeks in early mid-October. This was an ongoing effort. They unilaterally changed election integrity rules before the election to rig the election for Joe Biden, a man who could never defeat Donald Trump in a normal election cycle. That is the reality. Period. No matter what they say, they cannot change that. That's why Jocelyn will not hand over the absentee ballot applications. Because right there on them will be a signature. Right there on them will be an address. Really? This person requested that ballot at that address? That person hasn't lived at that address in 10 years. That person is dead. Whatever the excuse may be. Or again, whatever the reality may be. And HR 1, let's go back. Let's go back to our 3-point bulletin. 1, everybody, this is what Democrats wanted. This is what, I wouldn't even say Democrats. This is what the anti-Trump forces wanted to use COVID to do. They wanted to use COVID as a pretext to achieve the following 3 goals. 1, everybody gets a ballot. Not every person, not every eligible voter. Every record on the voter file gets a ballot. It doesn't matter if they're dead, they're a change of address flag, they're a maiden name, their address belongs mysteriously to 1,000 other records on the voter file. Everybody gets a ballot or a request. Why is that? To flood the zone with dirty voter records. The rolls are dirty. They're dirty like a $5 hooker in Bangkok. Okay? There are, it depends on the state, but there are disproportionately dirty voter records in blue areas. Again, Clark County is 70% of the vote statewide, but it's 80+% of the dirty voter records. Records that are not eligible because, as you know if you watch the show, being registered to vote in the United States of America is not the same as being eligible to vote in the United States of America. Some of that is the system. Again, when mom, dad, grandma, grandpa dies, if you are a watcher of the show, you've heard me say this a million times. When they die, what you make your funeral arrangements, you grieve. What you don't do is call the local supervisor of election or the county clerk and tell them to remove mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, auntie, uncle, whatever from the voter file because they're dead. When you move, what the one thing you don't do in the heat, in the most stressful thing you can do in your life, one of, outside of divorce, is call up the local supervisor of election or county clerk and say, I no longer live here, take me off the voter record. The only reason why we identify those people is because they put a change of address in, a forward address, and then they become a change of address flag. There are thousands who don't do it. Thousands. The system is always behind. It always lags. What Democrats wanted to do was take advantage of those imperfections. They wanted to take advantage of them and flood the zone with all of these ballots that are ineligible records. Second, number two, they wanted to remove the verification procedures, which is what Jocelyn did, which is what the Kemp administration in Georgia allowed local election officials to do. They wanted them to remove the verification procedures. Rigorous signature verification, voter ID, integrity deadlines. Something we're going to talk about more in detail because we talk about voter ID all the time. We talk about photo ID. We talk now about signature verification. But people don't understand, because the media doesn't talk about it, how important these integrity deadlines are. Not how many votes does Joe Biden have, or how many votes does Donald Trump have. How many votes as you, a county, Fulton County, Broward County, Wayne County, Philadelphia County, Allegheny County. How many votes do you have? Don't tell me 35,000, 50,000, 75,000, 150,000 arrived 48 hours after the polls closed. Or they were there, but we didn't see them. We didn't count them. None of that. We have integrity deadlines in Florida. You must tell us how many votes you have by a certain time. That's it after that. Unless you got a really good damn excuse. Because the suspicion surrounding late arriving ballots, we can do better for the voters than that. Even if there's nothing untoward about it. It casts a shadow over the ballots. Why couldn't you count these ballots like everybody else? Why couldn't you find and account for these ballots like everybody else? So if they flood the zone, it doesn't do a lot of good if they cannot remove the verification procedures. Much of this, sadly, is up to local election officials. Do you rely on the virtue of government workers, or do you rely on the rule of law? Because they don't rely on your virtue not to commit crimes. That's why we have criminal codes. That's why we have laws. Because like John Adams said, you don't rely on the angels, mankind's better angels. If mankind was angels, we're filled with angels, we all had the nature of angels, we wouldn't need laws. Government workers are no better than you. They're no more virtuous than you. And they need accountability just like you do. They need somebody watching over their shoulder just like you do. In fact, they're less trustworthy than you. Most of the case. That's the reality of it. All right. 3, there has to be a way to return these ballots so they can fudge them when they return them. If they're not going to match the signatures, if they're not going to enforce integrity deadlines, ballot harvesting is a traditional way to do that. But in many cases, that was either outright banned or they couldn't get the rule changes in place. In some places like Clark County, Nevada, they got you, the taxpayer, the sucker, to not only allow it in a state where it's illegal, but you paid for it. You kicked out for it. You paid to have ballots delivered illegally because that is against the law in the state of Nevada. And in states where they couldn't do it, Mark Zuckerberg came in with his almost infinite size of his wallet and imposed these drop boxes with people like Stacey Abrams, their organizations, and other Democratic operatives. And that's how they got around. What do we have? Nearly 80% of those ballots, the state of Georgia cannot account for chain of custody. With nearly 80% of all of those ballots delivered. And we're not talking about a few ballots here, folks. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of ballots in the Atlanta and surrounding area. 6 figures in an election decided by about 10,000 votes. And that's just one part of that equation. One. So again, flood the zone, remove the verification procedures, and then find some way to return these ballots. And believe me, again, if you're a watcher of the show and you have watched us read these names off, somebody was doing this. In Michigan, it smells like union. It reeks of union. Because it's almost unbelievable to have all of this stuff happen under the county clerk's nose without some kind of union. It just doesn't. I just don't believe it. And who's the usual suspect? Who's the most likely? Who had the financial incentive, the political incentive, the manpower to do it? Mm-hmm. Unions. Public sector unions. All right, so HR 1 in a nutshell. All right, general consensus is the vast majority of this bill is unconstitutional. The Constitution, the U.S. Constitution, puts the power to conduct elections in the hands of the state legislatures. Afterward, it does say, and Congress shall make votes here and there. What they meant by that, according to most lawyers we spoke with, right and left, is to secure voting rights of African Americans during, post-abolition. Women's suffrage, right? The Voting Rights Acts, period, things like that, of that nature. Which brings us to number 2. HR 1. And HR 1 would basically remove it would make it a moot point. Remove the National Voter Registration Act of 1993. It doesn't overturn it. It just makes it a moot point. They're not complying with it anyway. They're not maintaining their voter rolls anyway, most of these states, particularly blue areas in these states. They are it's not because they have higher populations. Disproportionately, they are the problem. In Pennsylvania, you're not going to find a big, percentage of the voter roll being dirty in Washington. Not anywhere near like you'll find it in Allegheny and Philadelphia. In Nevada, Douglas County is not going to be anywhere near as dirty as Clark County. As a percentage, proportionately. For the fake fact checkers out there who don't know math at all. Basic statistics. They took half math for the liberal arts and dropped out or something. They don't seem to understand common terms in statistics. All right. And HR 1, the main goal is that's what you need to know. The main goal is to take the power out of the hands of the state legislatures. There is a massive blowback right now because despite what you heard from these weak-spined, cowardly and corrupt Republicans in November and in that month and even into December, despite what you heard from them during that period, now they understand the problem because it's their skin. It's them on the chopping block now. So now they want to do something about it. Now we get calls. Hey, listen, if we wanted to craft a bill, how would we do it? Explain to us like we're 4-year-olds, which you have to, by the way, because they are. This is how dumb these people are. Explain to us like we're 4 years old how elections are conducted. Like, you're not the legislature? Aren't you the ones who are in charge of conducting elections? You don't know how this process works? It's incredible. Now they know, now they care. But the federal government, or at least the current federal government, doesn't want them to have that power. So that is the main goal of HR 1. 2, voter ID's out the window. With HR 1, forget about signature verification. Voter ID will essentially be prohibited. You will not be able, as a state legislature, to tell your local supervisors of elections that state law requires voters have a photo ID of some sort, a state ID, whatever it may be, a voter registration card. There are states that are different, or of course a driver's license to vote. That will be the end of that. Integrity deadlines are banned. What I was explaining to you before in HR 1, integrity deadlines are banned. They're gone. You cannot. So even states that have them right now, like Florida, that's gone. It's back to the Wild West in Broward County again. Here it's back to, doesn't matter if Brenda's there or not. It's back to the Wild West. Forget about how many absentee ballots do you have by 8 o'clock. How many election day votes do you have by 8 o'clock? How many in-person early votes do you have by 8 o'clock? That's gone. You will not be able, but there will be 16-year-olds registered on the voter roll. That's going to happen because different states with different driver's license. It will be automatic, basically. Essentially, it's automatic voter registration. You go and get a driver's license. You go get a learner's permit. You will be registered. And the states will not be able to prohibit these people from getting on the voter rolls. If you thought the rolls were dirty before, when I opened up the browser to share it with you before the election, and I showed you actual voter files, which these people had the nerve to accuse me of faking.
I know.
It's a national voter file.
On their database.
It is the leading vendor in this country. The leading national voter file database.
Well, you're just very talented. You could create those.
Amazing. I scripted that all myself. Mm-hmm. Incredible. If you thought they were dirty before, they will be agreed. But you know what? The more the merrier. Because we'll be throwing out these ballots like they're nothing. I mean, you got 4 last time, you'll get 6 this time. Who knows? HR 1 seeks to take the power out of the states to conduct elections in a first world fashion. Period. Let's take a state like Georgia so I can get rid of this because I see it's burning up my browser. This is the browser. This is the poll we conducted in Georgia. This is the support for election integrity deadlines in the state of Georgia. Look at it. It's overwhelming. And we went over this when I told you David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler were going to lose because we had them both down. And we were right when others were not. Again, it was overwhelming. Black, white, Republican, independent, even large percentages of Democrats could not understand why there were not deadlines for election officials to report to the Secretary of State how many votes they had in their precincts and counties. It is common sense to the average voter. We have polled this in battleground states. We have polled this nationally. 2% strongly opposed voter ID. Or 2.5%. It was white liberals driving overall, what was it? Maybe like 6% or something like that. It was ridiculously low. And who was doing it? The white liberal. The white liberal. The yuppie anchor you see on your television. That's who opposes it. Who claim to speak for black and brown people who are supposedly disenfranchised in this country. It is a load of bull. Even African Americans support voter identification. Photo identification. Even African Americans support signature verification. Even African Americans support having integrity deadlines. They don't speak for these people. This bill does not reflect their will. This is common sense. Only your yuppie white liberal supports this stuff.
I'm just over the...
Yeah, do you want to get a word in here? I want people to look at those numbers. Go ahead.
I'm just over the little controlling the majority, because if you look at it, the way they want to push the House is majority, but when the masses outweigh the
polls mean nothing to them when the House wants to do something.
Exactly.
Yep.
So where majority rules is okay for them, but with the people, majority does not coincide with their belief system. Therefore, we are controlled by
and then they claim to speak for them anyway. Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah, no, you mean the minority voice. And look, I was actually right. Requiring all voters to provide photo identification to cast a vote by party, 2.7% totally strongly oppose. 2.7%. It's incredible. This is not a divisive issue. These are not this is not Trump's conspiracy theory. Voters believe this should be the norm. And Georgia doesn't look much different from the nation because we polled this for the Epoch Times in September. Do you remember? By the way, back in September for the Epoch Times, nearly half of the country believed that there would be fraud before the election happened because of an increase in mail-in votes. I mean, this is not, here's more signature verification. Let's keep going. 3.5% strongly oppose signature verification. I mean, folks, you got to be kidding me. You have got to be kidding me. This is not difficult. And I would open them up and show the database, but I'm afraid I'll show somebody else's thing. Yeah, because when I go to the overall database, it pulls up all the clients. And I don't want anyone to get canceled because they're a client of Big Data Poll.
I know.
They may be a left-wing organization.
You know how bad
Oh my God. Surprise, surprise. We get hired by left-wing organizations. Why? Because they want the best. They want the best to tell them how their brand is. They want the best to tell them how to market something. Only in the Nate Fraud Silvers world. Only in that fakes world. But they will get targeted. You know they will. Mm-hmm. You know they will. You know that will happen.
Bad I'd feel if somebody got fired because they were in our poll.
Well, right, because they hired us. Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. Who's the head of that? Well, let's just say, who's the head of that department? Who's the head of that department? Who hired him? Mm-hmm. Right? You know that's coming.
This is crazy times.
I mean, this is where we're at.
Yeah, no.
This is where we're at. So, this point being here is, guys, this is not divisive. At all. At all. All right. It is coming up. God, 30 minutes already. How that happened so quick.
You went on your rant.
30 minutes.
Passion, baby, passion.
It happened so quick. Doesn't it? Yeah, so I want to also bring out something else because this piggybacks off of this. What Facebook did and what this guy is on camera admitting to obviously is a problem. All right? But I see Republicans like, Democrats this, Mark Zuckerberg that. You should be blaming your own party. Mm-hmm. Look, I like Jim Jordan. His guy. I like him as a guy. But if you want to blame someone, blame Jim Jordan, guys. He had them on the hook and let them off. He did. I mean, Mike Cernovich published that internal memo before that hearing. If there was something anyone was going to do to stop this kind, why didn't do you think if right-wing organizations were doing, or big tech, were in favor of right-wing organizations, do you think the Adam Schiffs of the world would allow them to do it before the election without do you think they would have known about the drop boxes before the elections? Do you think they would have known about the voter registration drives before the elections? And by the way, again, I mean, these voter registration drives, that's a code word. Okay, they don't mean voter registration drives. Like, yes, they did engage in voter registration, but we went over the voter registration numbers, folks, before the elections. There was no influx or surge in Democrats being registered to the voter rolls. You know that. Republicans were out registering Democrats in basically every single battleground state, almost every single one outside of Arizona, where Democrats were making some gains. Okay, there was no voter registration surge in the state of Pennsylvania. Democrats, they saw their advantage in Florida to the lowest ever since partisan identification started to be tracked by the Secretary of State in 1972. All right? None of this was happening. What they mean were drop boxes. What they mean were ballot harvesting operations. What they mean were stuffing the pockets of dirty politicians to get them to go along with election changes that they knew would reduce the integrity of this election. Or even if they didn't outwardly, let's say some are true believers, they knew their little code is make it easier for people to vote, whether you're alive, dead, or eligible. I mean, really. I mean, cast a big net, folks.
So if you like to do a split personality kind of ordeal,
cast a big net. I'm not going to dig the paper up again. Go look at the old videos. I was reading them on air. You notice PolitiFact doesn't go and get the actual record name and dispute it. By the way, they're fake fact checkers. Again, even Snopes did their job, guys. Even Snopes did their job when they called. And I said, look, here's here it is. You can't dispute it. What did they run? They ran a definition of a change of address flag to explain what I was talking about. Not to smear, not to fake fact check, because they could not. They were going to pounce, but they couldn't. They just did their job. They were mad, but they did their job. You have to give it to them.
No, they did, but they were salivating.
They were. You could hear it. They were salivating, and then they were.
Wait.
Yeah. But wait. But you mean? But wait. No. I mean, when you leave and there's a change of address flag, you put it forward. It flags you. It means you are no longer eligible because you're no longer at that address anymore. That voter record is not eligible anymore. Here they are. They're right here. Oh, I get it. But it doesn't mean just because they're a change of address, they voted, right? No. What I'm saying is there are hundreds of thousands, 140,000 now in Fulton County alone, 134 at the time, I believe, right? It doesn't mean all 134, and some right-wingers made mistakes about that. But it does mean they're there, they're very easy to cheat with, and they were cheated with. Sadly. That's what, what are you talking about in Michigan? Well, here's what I'm talking about in Michigan. If this system isn't flawed, why did John Doe, who was registered on January 1970-something, died February 2009, Kent County, Michigan, how did John Doe return this ballot? Here's the record right here. Returned. And here's how many we found. Well, Jocelyn is claiming they only threw out about 14,000 ballots. Well, Jocelyn, that doesn't account for everything. You're telling me, Jocelyn, I randomly pulled a subsample and found nearly all of them in one shot out of 1.4 million? Or whatever it is at the time now? Get the hell out of here. You're a liar. You broke the law, and now we all know you broke the law.
Can we get rid of that chart because it's killing my speed?
The chart is gone. Oh, you mean get it off the actual thing?
Please.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's not only that. I'll tell you what, guys, just to let you guys know,
It's not the production side.
No, no, I put a different setting in trying to create a better, they said lower the frames per second. It's low, right?
But the thing is,
it's
also,
glitching.
You're quick.
Okay.
So it's like.
Well, you know what? Not only get rid of the chart, I'll kill that so it's not using CPU. That's what they said. Lower the frames per second. And I had a feeling this would happen, honestly.
I'm sorry
I
to
did.
interrupt you, though.
Yeah, no, it's okay. I had a feeling this would. I really did. I had a feeling this was going to happen. But the last couple of shows, Robert and I were kind of like, when we were going back and forth, when I rewatched, I noticed them like, yeah. So when I asked about it, they said, well, you're doing 60 frames per second, reduce it to 30.
But now
it's too slow.
I think it's different when we have two versus.
I think you're right.
And so when it's just you, I'd rather at the higher level.
Okay. Gotcha. Well, there you go. Live on production.
Sorry, production.
That's production glitch. Things get. You live and learn. You live and learn. You know, it's still better than CNN during the height of COVID. Yeah. I mean, at least you can hear me speaking.
And
I mean,
Rich knows not to touch my camera anymore because he turns green.
What was that, Mr. Potato Head? Brian Stelter with his pants off? Why would you tweet a video of you not wearing your pants?
I don't.
What the hell is wrong with these people?
I mean, I can tell y'all, Rich is fully clothed.
My idea of cheating, like with COVID, my idea of cheating is like maybe I'll put a shirt and tie on, and then like 1905 travelers from like
No, like Rich's cheating is jeans.
Yeah.
Not no pants. Not boxers.
Right. That's my idea of cheating.
Instead of slacks, he's wearing jeans and a nice shirt with a tie, which is still fashionable.
And today it's a Wednesday. Usually I'd be in a suit and tie, but it's cold and rainy outside, guys. Yeah. So going out there, it's like, you know, get your tie all wet, get your shirt all wet, you know? I don't know.
Can't have rain spots.
Yeah, so Laura got me this for Christmas, actually, guys. You like it?
I do. I love that color.
She got me that for Christmas. She nailed it. I'm like that guy. Like, well, what do you want for Christmas? Get me clothes. I like clothes, you know?
Now, if y'all don't know, Rich is
Oh, here we go.
More.
Here we go.
So the way to Rich's heart is through clothes.
I like clothes. I do. I'm like the only A-type guy who really... No, that's not true.
No, there are men that like
Yeah.
clothes. You're just a little...
And not like ridiculous. Don't like you know, don't get the wrong impression.
No, I'm not saying it has to be silk.
Yeah,
right?
but well, years ago, when I worked on Wall Street, when I was a Wall Street guy, I did like silk a lot. It was just, look, you had to play, you know what it is, guys? You had to play the part.
Yeah.
You have to play the part. It's just the way it is in that atmosphere. And it was like back then, at that time. You ever watch the movie Boiler Room? That time, it was like the more flamboyant, the better, and the bigger, the bigger fish you looked. I mean, so you have to play the part to land the whale, you know. You want to go, and that's just the way it was. So yeah, once upon a time, you probably couldn't even recognize me.
Said Barnes liked clothes.
Yeah, look, Barnes was trying out the bow tie a week or so ago. I'm not kidding. Yeah, he did. I got to show you that. And I was like, you know what? Throw back to Tucker. But it wasn't Tucker looking. It was more like that other guy. And it looked good. I was like, a bow tie looks good on Barnes. It did.
I gotta check it out.
Yeah. And by the way, you know, I should have credited Robert too in that tweet I sent before, because both of us said this about this administration. I knew that obviously these people hated Donald Trump, but that Washington Post story about the Trump phone call to Crappy Burger, the Secretary of State for Georgia, all right, we call him Crappy Burger, all right, but his deputy was the source of now debunked story in the Washington Post. The use of anonymous sources, all right, is out of control, and they don't. And they like call it mistakes. Somebody rightfully said that on Twitter in response. They were like, you know, enough of these mistakes. They're not mistakes. Stop calling them mistakes. They were right, because they're not mistakes, guys. Look, like every journalist knows basic ethics. They choose not to follow them. Okay. Even the post-2016 era, and I know because as the editor of PPD, we wanted to be in this new world, right? Online news organization, ONA. It's basic ethics to consider the motivation and the general motive, not just political. The general motivation behind an anonymous source before you consider whether to deliver that information on their word and without corroboration, because clearly that was not corroborated, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, we can just all admit and acknowledge that information was not corroborated because it was not true. Crappy Burger then lied on CNN and corroborated it. Now we get the transcript of the call, and it's debunked. Donald Trump never said find the votes. He did tell one official that she had the most important job in the world right now, because her job was to ferret out ballots that were not eligible. And they knew that, somebody voted in Gabe's using Gabe's address. His own address, Gabe Sterling's own address.
How stupid.
Can we stop with this crap? Can we stop with this crap, this pretentious nonsense? Oh, there is always voter fraud. Always. The question was whether or not it was significant enough to have an impact on the election. If you dismiss the chance that there's voter fraud, you're an idiot. You're either naive or you're an idiot. Or you're worse. You're a liar. Which is what most of you media people were. Either you know nothing about elections, you cover politics, know nothing about elections. It's always voter fraud. It was only a matter of how significant it was. Was there something more untoward about this election cycle? That was the only question. Not whether or not we were going to find ballots that were ineligible. We always do. Just never on the scale. Never on the scale. So anyway, the transcript comes out. He didn't say find the votes. I mean, this is a nonsense. Where is the ONA, Laura, who released the trust indicators post 2016? What that is, folks, is that you're put it in the schema metadata of your website so it comes up in search engines and people can read about your ethics policies and your guidelines, your policy, your news organization's policy on the use of unnamed sources, right? Where the hell are these people? Yeah. Why haven't they spoken up in the last 4 years?
Because their unnamed sources are their friends.
That's it.
Okay.
That's the truth. And the people who took their word are their friends.
Yes.
And that's the truth. So the trust indicators are not trustworthy at all anymore. Even the people who design the trust indicators are not trustworthy anymore because they have destroyed their own credibility by not holding people in their own orbit to their own standards. And you can go right now to PPD and look at the footer and you will find every single one. I got rid of it, Laura, but what's down there? Everything. How does PPD get funded? Is there any private funders? Is there not? What funds the work at People's Pundit Daily? Right? That's a big deal, don't you think?
Yeah,
I agree.
Because honestly, you want to know if China is funding PPD.
Right. How much money does Bahrain? How much money does CNN take from Bahrain, for instance? How much does the United Arab Emirates give to what you think are American media outlets? The truth of the matter is,
you're beholden to who
absolutely,
pays your bills.
Guys. If we took money from people, all right, then let me just tell you, people who want to give us money absolutely expect something in return. Mm-hmm. They want something. Cheryl Atkinson's book is amazing. The Smear. Yeah. All right. Amazing. Because she is 100% as a former reporter in legacy media. And it's not American media. That's what you should know right off the bat. It's really not. These are countries all over the world. Even Fox. They took Saudi money. Fox was living on Saudi money for the first decade of their existence. I mean, really. And others. Yeah, they did very well. So then why do you have to take money from the royal family? Mm-hmm. All right? But in any event, moving on. It's not just, I just don't want people to think I'm beating up on left-wing organizations. No. I'm beating up on corporate America because they pretend like they're domestic companies, but they are not. Mm-hmm. And they don't have domestic interests at heart at all. So would you trust them to tell you the truth about a domestic election? You better not.
Well, when you have a problem, who do you search first? You
have
to search yourself first.
Right.
And then if you find the fault within yourself, you need to fix the problem in-house before you can fix anybody else. Yeah,
that's so true.
So to me, Republican Party, you need to fix yourselves up.
Yeah.
And you need to get rid of the nasty in your party before you can
You worry about that? Like them bitching about the Project Veritas video? Like,
don't project.
Where the hell? Go yell at Jim Jordan.
Yes.
Why didn't he know about this? He made the conscious decision to not press them on these efforts, which, by the way, we may have been a very small voice at the time, but it's not like he wasn't hearing about everything that was going on the ground. They blew it off, folks, while Facebook stuffed their pockets. I haven't gone through Jim Jordan's financials, but Republicans take money from big tech too. All right? Just like Fox News takes money from foreign governments, just like CNN does. All right, so it is what it is.
It just told me somebody was blocked, but I didn't block them.
We don't block anyone.
And I like that person.
We don't block. Look, folks, we haven't blocked anyone. Where are they blocked on?
It just came up and told me on YouTube.
Well, I fully expected doing this video we were gonna have a problem. I did. I fully expected we were going to have issues with YouTube after I did this video. All right. So I don't be surprised if there's an issue. All right. But we don't block anybody because we encourage debate. I hate blocking critics. I never understood that Twitter thing. Well, you're this, you're blocked. Like that. I really thought the promise of social media would be the expansion of debate and free debate. Mm-hmm.
Amen.
Sadly, that's not the case. Why I love locals so much, and I'd encourage you guys to sign up to the community. By the way, they will have that streaming service soon, because once locals has their streaming service ready, I'm just going to stream to locals, not YouTube. And there's going to be a lot on there that I'm only going to do through locals. The problem is right now we can't have live discussions on locals, just locals community. But I love locals because it does, like, if you guys support the community, then you're not going to be, we do get trolls, paid trolls. Yes. It's just not as many as you'd get on a non-paid platform. Yeah, but I don't even think of them really as trolls. If they're following, I don't think of them as trolls if they're following and engaging in debate because they disagree with something I'm saying. Isn't that the point? And that really is this, to me, the saddest part of where big tech has led us, because they had this promise and it's just destroyed. It's gone. Go ahead though.
I just wanted to tell you, you had a troll during the election season, and her name was Carly. And from constantly trying to troll you, I guess she had no choice.
We converted her,
but to
right?
Listen,
yep.
And then she was completely red-pilled.
Once you're right, too, though. Sometimes I completely... and you know what? That's what it's all about. Mm-hmm. And I thank her for coming and debating, because I don't understand where well, I do. I just don't like when we turn that corner. When we really rounded that corner and haven't looked back. And now that kind of an instance is rare. You know, I mean, studying older elections, you'd have these huge crossover votes, right, in support of other candidates. Where we come from, we would have basically, it's a Democratic area, but they'd vote for like a Republican governor, right? And then everyone at that time, the environment was a Democratic issue, so we had environmental issues. So most local people, the machine was Democratic, the local machine was Democratic. Those days are over. You know, we wouldn't get, and back then we used to debate each other and talk to. I don't think there was voter fraud. Look, I can show you YouTube. I can show you here. You can't dispute this record. I mean, you can't dispute it. Like, all you can do is remove the show. But you cannot go into those shows, go through those records I read on air, and dispute those records. You can't do it. So instead of acknowledging that they're just wrong, they were wrong, they censor. And they remove you, they block you. You know,
that's because you're ruining their safety.
And right-wingers do it too. I love Larry, but he blocks the hell out of everybody. Mm-hmm. No, I don't. You know, this guy's a troll. He doesn't like what Trump did. Trump supporters, because Larry's a big Trump fan, and somebody would be critical of Trump, he'd block him. Mm-hmm. Like, what are we doing here then? If it's not for debate, what are we doing? Are we just fighting? Because that's not how this is supposed to go. All right, but it is what it is. All right, 11:48. All right, so to wrap up, to recap my long-winded rant, all right, HR 1, the main goal is really not, and now that I've been thinking about it and talking to lawyers about it, it's more important to include the legal aspect of this and what it means for the social contract itself. It's not just to codify all of the election changes that we saw before November into federal law. That's not only what it's about. It's really the main crux of this is to take the power from the states, which is you. It's you. Because your state legislatures are more representative of you, your communities, you as a person, your families, your neighborhoods. They're closer to you. These people live with you. My state legislature actually lives up the road. I mean, you may not know that if you're not involved, or these are people who are literally your neighbors. So they speak for you. They are your voice. And they want to take that power from them and they want to put it into Washington, D.C. Even though for 200 plus years, And of course, presidents and senators were not always elected by direct vote, but that power belonged to the state legislature. And in fact, this is really, H.R. 1 would be a continuance of what they call progress, but it is not. It's a continuance of taking away that state role. States used to elect senators, your state legislatures. They used to appoint, basically, or elect senators, select a senate. And, your representatives essentially elected the president. That just keeps going in the name of, one man, one vote, everyone gets a vote, is this mantra. It's all a load of crap. It's all a load of crap. All this ever has done and resulted in is concentrated wealth and power in and around the District of Columbia. Wealth used to be much more dispersed. Power used to be much more dispersed in this country. The Midwest was the center of wealth at one point. Not the District of Columbia, not Northern Virginia. And now here, not Wall Street, although it's always been obviously wealthy, But the bottom line is, it's a fraud. It's a total fraud, just like everything else they push. So, yeah, it would codify what we saw in November. Yeah, but that's not really the main point. The main point is to take away another, not just an aspect of your power in this social contract. It's your right. It's in the Constitution. You have the right to decide how your elections are conducted. The federal government does not represent you. It, in fact, was never really designed to represent you, right? They call it the people's house, but the house was the only thing that was close to the passion of the everyday person. And the Senate was supposed to temper that passion, but the founders knew that wouldn't work. They did. They completely understood. Especially if it became a full-time gig.
That's what we need to start.
Your power was supposed to be, or your voice was supposed to be projected by your state. That is why they gave the federal government tiny little powers and said the rest is the state. Now think about that too. They said how much more the rest is in the state's control, yet they felt it incumbent upon themselves to specifically state that the state legislatures conduct elections. So if they make an explicit reference to something being a state responsibility and power, they damn well had a good reason for it. That was absolutely intentional, because the Constitution really is a laying out of the federal government's power to minimize and then say the rest is it's self-evident that the rest is up to the states. That is where the power lies. And here we are now.
Didn't we do a poll?
The third step, Did we?
Term limits, though.
Term limits, yeah. We not recently. Not recently.
Back
It was like 62% or something like that. Yeah. Term limits are basically the only way out of the 17th Amendment. And that's not even good enough.
No.
Some of the stuff Trump imposed to combat rent-seeking behavior, it needed to be coupled with term limits. Yes. What he laid out in his Gettysburg Address in 2016, that would be the anecdote for what has essentially become careerism in the United States Senate and the United States House, because there wasn't careerism. That didn't exist before the 17th Amendment. It didn't. People had other jobs. We didn't have career representatives of the House of Representatives. We didn't have career U.S. senators. No. They were something else before they entered public service. Then they left and went back to being what they were. There were no Nancy Pelosi's who rides into Washington with no experience in anything because of a liberal wave 30 plus years ago and then just stays there. That didn't exist, and it wasn't supposed to exist, because seniority is what rent seekers are looking for. And founders knew that. Even Americans for most of our republic understood that. And we threw it away. That's the truth. We threw it away. We had a good gift, a good system, and we threw it away. Treason of the Senate is a joke. Is a joke. All right. We're going to take a quick 2-minute break. Let's play Bad Habits so we can do that. And when we come back, I want to read something. I'm going to Is our Virtuous Republic up there? It is up there, right? I want to read something. Actually, if you want to get it, let's wait for the break, and I'll read it while we wait. Give me 2 seconds while Laura runs over and gets it, because what I'm saying is empirically supported. So we looked at average tenure in the U.S. Senate before and after the 17th Amendment. And funny, what we found is it exploded after the 17th Amendment. But the House followed. And what really can be accounted for that is that it just became the norm. So once careerism in the U.S. Senate became a thing, the House followed. And that became a thing too. And now we just have career politicians who are not good for anything. And unfortunately, that is what the rent seekers, and when I say rent seekers, I'm talking about special interests. That is what the rent seekers want. That's what they're looking for, because seniority is currency in Washington, D.C. Whether you're a senior member or not is that decides whether or not you table or move forward with elections. All right. Boy, there are some really good ones here.
Of course there is.
I'm not patting myself on the back. I'm just saying I should rewrite this book and make it prescient. Like I should rewrite it and make it prescient to the times. All right. Talk about the early. Oh, my buddy Grover Cleveland. What an underrated president. Seriously, what an underrated president. Okay. All right, here we go. All right, we're going through the free silver thing. Mm-hmm. That's Grover Cleveland, but then getting into the progressive era. All right. In 1866, the progressive era, the obvious and most celebrated, without thought to consequence, by the way, was the transformation of a traditional republic into a democratic republic, is what they would phrase it as. All right, but that's with the 17th Amendment and the 16th Amendment. So now they get their progressive income tax and they get the direct election of senators. All right, the focus, how it was sold, was a populist point of view. They were trying to appease to populism, or they were trying to appeal, is a better word. They were trying to appeal to populists. And like I've said before, they would love historians that are like revisionists. They love to pretend that the progressive movement was the same as populism in this country, but it's not. It's just not. All right, but the focus was on a populist point of view, but they both blindly ignored the amendment's repercussions, and they intentionally covered their hidden intentions, which were far more sinister than your high school textbooks let on. All right. Progressives then argued the need for the amendment was due to special interest influence on state legislatures. So corruption and electoral deadlock. All right. Meaning if a state legislature removed a senator, they would get deadlocked in the state legislatures on who to appoint to the Senate to replace. All right. And we looked at whether or not that was true. Did that happen even? Right. And it didn't, is to make a long story short. But inexperienced state legislatures in Western states, faulting the plurality election system, did fail to send representation on a few occasions. However, representation was no longer an issue by the time the amendment was being seriously considered in the early 20th century. In 1866, a federal law had already been passed requiring state legislatures to elect senators by majority vote and not through plurality. Every time I'm thirsty, I cannot say that word. Plurality. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Can I have that? Oh, one's open. Here we go. Thank you. Oh, I'm going to Rubio it. Hold on.
Go 2.0.
Plurality.
There you go.
All right. As previously practiced, a simple amendment to this statute requiring runoff elections would have eradicated electoral deadlock. The claim that this presented a problem to the proper functionality of government had already been outdated and discredited. Okay? Furthermore, there existed no federal restrictions that would have prevented approaching deadlock with states' right-centered solutions. The Oregon Plan, for instance, demonstrated that a federal constitutional amendment was completely unnecessary. to address deadlock. The plan required candidates for the state legislature to sign one of two binding statements prior to running for office. One statement pledged to support the winner of the popular primary vote, while the other reserved the traditional right to vote their conscience. The state's right-centered solution proved to preserve the people's interest, as a Republican-controlled state legislature sent a Democratic candidate to the Senate after winning the popular primary vote. They didn't renege. This was bull. It was all bull. All right? David Graham Phillips, the BSer in chief, famously made the case against special interest corruption in state legislatures in the 9-part series of articles published in Cosmopolitan magazine in 1906, entitled Treason in the Senate. An April edition read, "The combination of bribery," this is going to sound very familiar to you, "the combination of bribery and party prejudice is potent everywhere, but there comes crisis when these fail the interest for the moment. A few $1,000s put in the experienced hands of the healers, and the senatorial general agent of the interests is secure for another 6 years. The Aldrich machine," and he's referring to a specific case here, "controls the legislature, the election boards, the courts, the entire machinery of the Republican form of government. In 1904, when Aldrich needed a legislature to re-elect him for his 5th consecutive term, it is estimated that carrying the state cost about $2,000, a small sum, easily to be got back by a few minutes of the industrious pocket-picking in Wall Street." All right? Sound familiar, right? I mean, basically, average tenure in the U.S. Senate, average in years, at the time David Graham Phillips is making this case, is 4.2 years. Less than a full term in the United States Senate. Okay? So moving forward, the value of the 17th Amendment's ability to stop rampant corruption within state legislatures, which supposedly worked against the people's interests, is a complete historical myth. Industry and labor had their fair share of corrupt politicians who legislated based on their interests. In fact, prior to treason in the Senate, the first and only 2 senators who were charged and convicted with violating the 1864 statute, which I cited before, which outlawed the practice of accepting special interest retainer fees, among other activities, were both progressives. They were both progressives. Joseph Burton, Kansas, and John Mitchell of Oregon. They were progressive Republicans, by the way, in the era of Teddy Roosevelt. To Phillips, that would have mattered little, as he was an equal opportunity muckraker. Even Roosevelt himself described Phillips as a muckraker, and with a background resembling, I love Teddy, yellow journalism more than it did personal journalism. And the bottom line is, here's the graph. It's hard to see. Maybe I could show it, but that's average tenure in the U.S. Senate, the trend after the 17th Amendment. I mean, it's really obvious. You don't need to see the dates. I mean, it's really obvious. It exploded. It exploded. 4.2 years. If I'm not mistaken, I know it's 4 point something. But the bottom line is, I'm not the only one to find this. And just to support our work, Todd Zwicky. This is a historian from George Mason University. This is what he wrote when he looked at the numbers. Empirical tests have demonstrated support for the proposition that the movement from direct elections of senator was an attempt to change the institutional structure in which rent-seeking behavior took place. The 17th Amendment increased the average tenure of senators, thereby making available a greater number of special interest contracts, as well as increasing their durability and value. Why? Because if you keep replacing senators, guys, it makes it hard on special interests who just got a bill passed in the last Congress. Maybe the new crew comes in and says, this was a corrupt piece of legislation. We're getting rid of that. Like what Trump did when he first got into office, and he used a very little, it's not that it wasn't well known, it was rarely used, rule to repeal regulations within a certain time frame from the prior Congress. And they used it, and they used it at a historic pace. That pissed off rent seekers, because they paid for those regulations. You think they put them in place for you? Ha! That was for them. That was to give them a competitive advantage in their industry. To keep you down is what it really was for. You guys should check out Robert Barnes' Twitter feed. I retweeted it a little bit ago, and it basically showed a chessboard, and each piece of the chessboard correlates to an entity or an organization in the construct of society. And you are definitely the pawn. Mm-hmm. You are definitely the pawn. There's just no doubt about it. And Mark Zuckerberg, they need a new piece for him. He's the kingmaker. He's the kingmaker. Hell, Jeff Bezos didn't even feel like he told Bernie to go blow him. He did. Bernie said, I need you to come up to Capitol Hill. He said, kiss my, I'm not coming.
Behind.
Bezos and Zuck, they don't need to listen to these guys. They are, in fact, more powerful than them. That's the truth. Because they pay their bills, Laura.
They're high on that power, too.
They pay their damn bills. Mm-hmm. Shut up, Bernie. I gave you money last time. And Bernie will shut up. Because Bernie is nobody's champion. He's a coward.
He's a pay-to-play.
He is a pay-to-play guy. Your wife selling any property lately, Bernie? He's happy to pay to play. He's a true believer in his ideology, but he's a fraud. In the sense that he's not anyone's champion. He would cave. Bends over every time the Democratic Party asks him to.
Sure does.
Twice now. Twice. He's sacrificed his supposed principles. He's a coward. He's a chump.
Party, I'd be pissed
well, that's why Bernie's coalition this time looked totally different. He beat Hillary Clinton in Michigan. Hillary won the urban areas. Bernie ran it up in the working class areas. He lost those areas because those working class voters who were voting for him are now just Donald Trump's voters. It's up in the air as to whether Republicans will hold on to them. It will say, though, just from the polling we have been doing and will continue to do. By the way, definitely support the Public Polling Project. If you're watching on YouTube, the form's in there. And Laura, maybe we can put it in the locals chat too. But those guys are already ponied. Because we're gonna donate some too from the locals thing. Eventually, the goal is to get locals to pay for polling. It would be nice, to have it in support. But we have other avenues. Mm-hmm. But it would be nice to get it to pay for it. But we're not there yet. So I really want to get some polling in before HR 1 is even thrown out there. There's several questions about HR 1. All right. So in any event, don't forget to support it. All right. But yeah, we can keep going when we return. But the bottom line is those people never came back for Bernie 4 years later. They're just Trump voters now. Republican voters will see. I think those people had a very bad impression of the Republican Party. Very bad.
And now they realize that the Democratic Party is the party that...
They're corporatists. They're corporatists. And that's the thing that they can't stand. Those voters, they cannot stand corporatism. They can't stand it. Which, by the way, as we've been saying, is much closer to fascism than it ever was to socialism. Republicans and their stupid consultants that they continue to hire over and over again, worthless Kelly Loeffler's people. I got news for you. I told the Epoch Times when that article comes out this week. I know a lot of people are going to be mad at me. I named names, boy. Yeah. I did. I was like, this person works for Trump. He's an idiot. This person works for this one. They're stupid. I said, look, I'm not trying to pick a fight. I'm just telling everybody the truth. We all know who told Donald Trump, don't worry about the drops. Go to sleep. Your margin is insurmountable. We all know who it was. All right. We all know who told Donald Trump he was 6 to 8 points ahead in Georgia. I mean, we all know who told this one in Georgia he's going to, Purdue, he's way ahead. Come on. Who told Kelly Loeffler she should run against Warnock as a socialist? First of all, it's not even accurate. They don't resemble, they are fascists. They are much, much closer. They have much more in common with fascists than they ever did socialists. Because they don't really want, like some AOC likes her, speak more like some Marxists. She's just all over the place. She's incoherent. 1 minute she's talking about a fascist system. The other minute she's talking about a Marxist system. She's totally incoherent. She doesn't know what the hell she's talking about.
The homeless need mortgages, Rich.
I mean, but...
We got to pay the homeless mortgages. We need to doing
Oh
to
my
make
God.
up their
These people.
mortgages of the homeless.
You know what, Laura? What does it say? She got elected.
That
You know?
that part really is upsetting to me.
She would never have gotten elected to your district when you lived in the Bronx. You know what I'm saying? Like when it was your district, I'm saying.
Yes, no, I know.
She would never have made
time,
it. They'd have laughed her
please.
out of that place, man. Could you imagine?
They'd be like, listen, you need
Listen,
to go back
Jenny
to the
from Yorktown Heights.
All right.
Listen, Jenny from Yorktown Heights.
Get
Right.
out before we kick your...
Go back to making white Russians.
Mhm.
All right. We will be back after a quick 2-minute break. Don't forget to like the page, People's Pundit Daily on Facebook. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube and hit that notification bell. Also, Public Polling Project. It is Big Data Poll /donations/donation-form. I got to do something about that. How about a nice page that just says Public Polling Project with a form on it, and then also all of the coverage we got. We got good coverage, and we just didn't take advantage of it. I tweeted out one New York Post article. Yes, it was my favorite, to be truthful. But we got good coverage, glowing coverage. People who are watching, they said, look, he was more accurate. He did things totally different. He was more transparent. That's good.
Yeah.
People should know that.
But that's why everybody hates you.
It is.
It's actually because we did for
Yep.
the people.
Yep.
We represented
Yep.
you, and they detest that because it is possible to do in polling. It's possible to do anywhere.
Yep. And we're doing mixed mode surveys they're going to flip out. And when somebody sees the 6-figure, the 6,000 figure, 2,000 responses, $3 a response for mixed mode, people are going to be like, what the hell is wrong with him?
Yeah.
Because
When they start charging at
yes.
like $30K.
for
Just
the 20K, 30 with Richard Hart was
500
40
responses.
for that one. Terrence Group charged 30K for a
ripped
couple
them off.
campaigns we know. I mean,
I want to know what
it's nuts.
I want to
It's
know
nuts.
what whatchamacallit's price was for Trump.
I'm sure it was ridiculous. I'm sure it was ridiculous.
I am
I'm not
curious.
kidding.
If anybody knows that, drop my line.
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
People's Pundit,
Producer at People's Pundit Daily.
peoplespunditdaily.com.
Actually, you could just look at his filings in the FEC, but
that's
you
right.
won't know whether or not
Yeah,
it's.
what
Here's
he
the deal.
charged him.
Yeah, you'll know the total amount he charged him. You won't know though if it was for a package.
Like how he did it.
Yeah, like after he charged Trump for an analysis of media polls, we got we got calls from politicians asking if they could pay me to do an analysis like John did for Donald Trump on media polls. And I said, no, you could pay me to poll and then I can comment on why our result may be different than their result and why I think I'm right. But no, you cannot pay me. You can't hire me as a professional smear guy, which is what that is. I'm smearing someone else's work, even though I have no other option to compare it to. Like, I can compare criticism. I mean, I can combine criticism with actual work. I mean, I do that all the time, even when we publicly poll, even for the Public Polling Project. You know, we'll talk about the results in the show, and I'll say why Fox News' Biden +5 was wrong and our Trump +8 was right. Remember that?
Yep.
Fox, they fired them.
Yes.
They fired them. Fox finally fired their crappy pollster.
And wasn't he Russian?
That's Karl Rove's
Wasn't
buddy.
that like-
Karl Rove and no, I think I don't.
No, on election night, that guy who was
Oh, you're thinking that's somebody else. No,
Oh,
that
okay,
was
they didn't fire
that's
him,
Darren and the other ones that were polling for Fox. They're supposed to be a joint thing. When they mean joint, they mean a far left progressive. Darren, and then a Republican pollster, I'm sorry, Shaw is, I think, the Republican. But anyway, I can't tell, you know. But one is like Karl Rove's establishment dork friend who hates Donald Trump. That's your Republican in that duo. All right. And then you have somebody who's like so far to the left for Democrats polling jointly, it would be like an AOC or just right before an AOC, but that far to the left. That's their ideology. So those are the people they build to you as a bipartisan polling operation. freaking load. It was always a joke. Biden +5, stick it. And then they heard it at the end to what? It was like Trump +3 or something. They very last minute, they're like, oh, actually, Ohio shifted 8 points. No, Ohio never shifted. Ohio was always Trump +8 to 10. The 6 was manipulated on our show to try to show people how badly I had to manipulate data to get Biden within 6 to 4 points.
What happened was their
badly manipulated.
And they had to hurry up and
flipped out on this. This was one of my favorite shows. I flipped the hell out, but that was one of my favorite shows because it's like so stunning, Lord. I'll watch these numbers come in and be like, wow, Ohio is not close. And it wasn't close since when the first time we polled it was like August.
It was
for the Epoch Times. It was way, it was a landslide. It was a landslide. And then Iowa was closer than I thought it might have been at one point, and I thought Ohio may vote to the left by a couple of points than Ohio. In the end, though, it widened out again. It never really was that close. What it was just a ton of those undeciders that are hard to push. And I know Ann wound up with her Trump +7, which was basically what it was in 16. Very close. But Ann, I gotta tell you, it really was. It was never a tie. Mm-hmm. It was like Trump +3, but a solid 3. And then when you looked at the undecided, they were never gonna vote for Joe Biden. These were not people who were going to vote. Not, they weren't gonna break for him. It was overwhelmingly gonna be a kind of like 4-1 break for Trump. So when you look at these voters, they're not Biden people. In any event, even though, by the way, some of them were Obama people. Many of them, actually. And they just not anymore. All right, so with that, I'm 15 minutes over my own break. We're going to take a real quick break. Don't forget to like and follow. We'll be back in about 2 minutes on Inside the Numbers.
2 minutes.
How much you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be, I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker, so just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love, because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker, so just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
We can get on a plane and take a one-way ride, steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to spear for a night, just to give in to the need and leave it all behind.
'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker, so just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker, so just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a
And we're back. All right, HR 1, what are the odds it will pass? It's going to pass in the House, probably. I mean, it's just a reality. They have the votes. And then whether or not it will pass in the Senate is up to you. Republicans are cowards, which is leading me to two questions. One was about the 16th or the 17th Amendment.
Which one?
And why would the states give up their power in the 17th Amendment? That's a great question. And part of that, there's a couple reasons. Number one was money. It was passed with it was a log rolling deal with the 16th Amendment. So they wanted a progressive federal income tax. Before the amendment, for the federal government taxing you directly was illegal. And they kept trying to do it in the different ways, progressively, tariffs. They had different ways of trying to do it, and the Supreme Court kept striking them down. It is illegal for the federal government to tax citizens. States collect taxes and then send them to the federal government. That's the way it is. Basically, states wanted money. They understood that would mean the federal government would give them money and bring home the bacon. So, and their representatives that would get, the Senate too. That's why, by the way, part of the reason why the House followed the Senate when it came to average tenure, because it was more beneficial for corruption, state special interests, for rent seekers, to keep the House members there as well. And the politicians wanted the bacon brought home, so they had friends in the House as well, and it just became one disgusting, what did Jefferson call it? He had a name for what it would turn into if it ever happened. Job mongers or something like that. I can't remember what he called it, something like that. But yeah, I mean, like, basically the national interest would basically start to be auctioned off in the chambers, and he was right, and that's exactly what happened. So a lot of that was money, sad, and that's why they couldn't get the 17th passed or ratified. Forget about ratification. They couldn't get it passed without it being part of a log rolling deal. And then when they got the 16th in the log roll, then that's how they got it through. And yeah, people like Phillips had an impact with treason in the Senate on the population. So there was political pressure there too, because people did buy the idea of, well, that's my vote. I should be having a vote. And in the book, I call it, because it's like, it is nice for you to pick your own senators, but it's not. It was much more sinister than that. They relied on what I refer to as rational ignorance. So it's not that you're dumb. It's not that we're dumb. We're busy. They understood that we're busy. We don't have time to examine every single vote. And that's true. How many people are watching the, cloture votes on C-SPAN, folks? How many people are reading the texts on GovTracker? They're not. That's rational ignorance. They don't have the time. The kids got to go to the soccer practice. I got to work 9 to 5. Or in my case, I got to work 6 to 9. Right? Yeah. It's just the way it is. And you don't have time to dissect every single thing these special interest rent seekers are trying to get these crooks to push. So they relied on what's called rational ignorance. And by the way, Harry Reid, there's a great quote by Harry Reid to discuss that really identifies that they do understand that. They did and do. They don't think, some of them do think you're stupid, there's no doubt. But they understand that the population, the voting population, is not going to have all of the facts. And that the money from these special interest groups that come, for their favored legislation also come from their campaigns. And a good campaign message matters more than the substance. And it's a good deal for them. That was a great question. And then also, as a piggyback off of that, why did these state legislatures basically sit back? Money. Before November, allowed these people to change the rules. Money and hatred. Even Republican legislatures, like Georgia, for instance, is a lot better of an example than some of these other states. But the administration, the Secretary of State, They allowed the Zuckerbergs of the world to come in and change these rules because they hated Donald Trump, and many of them didn't think that it would affect them. They thought there would just be this cute little deal where they would just remove Trump and leave the rest of the good playing boys and girls alone. That's how dumb these people are. Mm-hmm. They really believe that. And then what would I tell them if there was one thing that had to be passed? It's not just one thing. The integrity deadlines I find crucial. I do. But signature verification at this point is probably inadequate. No. There's no reason. If you can, folks, if you can put your fingerprint on your MacBook Pro, if you can put your fingerprint on an iPhone, if you can put your fingerprint, well, first of all, almost all of our prints are on record already by something you did to get a job, to get a background check done for your job, then we can get fingerprint match 6 point even for voting.
Listen,
all right.
When I worked for the school system, I had a hand scan, not a fingerprint.
Yep.
My full hand had to be scanned.
I know.
So if you want to vote, which affects more than anybody, it's you affect children's lives too by voting. So why not?
You can give up your print.
Yes.
You can give up your print. Get over it. They got them anyway. I was in the Army. They got that. I had to go work up. Was talking about job on Wall Street. Fingerprint. Any federal government, fingerprint. State government, fingerprint. You want a job doing something that, they need to make sure they could do a background check, $50 and a fingerprint. You could do it to protect the most important thing in our society, which is the integrity of our vote. You can do it. Fingerprints are, frankly, better than signatures because a machine is not really great at matching signatures. A machine can match a fingerprint pretty well. We have to take it out of the hands of corrupt officials because they are corruptible and are corrupt. Mm-hmm. Again, if the world was ideal, an ideal place, we could rely on the virtue of these people to conduct elections with integrity, but we cannot. Just like we cannot rely on banks to not be robbed. We cannot rely on crimes to not be committed. They're not any better than you because they call themselves a public servant. There are very few true public servants. That is the sad reality. All right? And then also, that would do away with the need for a photo ID. At first, you would have to, present an ID to make sure it's you. But once that is on record, then that would remove the argument that liberals make that somehow black people can't get an ID. That's an argument they make. I'm not kidding. That somehow certain groups of the population can't get an ID, even though just about every state makes it incredibly easy to get a photo ID that's an alternative to a driver's license. But that would remove that. That would take that out of the equation altogether. And whether you're doing an absentee ballot or you're doing voting in person early or voting in person on election day, it would be very simple. All right? Really, like I said, the purple finger system has more integrity than this. My service friends know what I'm talking about. The nation building days. Purple finger. All right?
Yeah,
so, and then what was the, we had some really good questions.
Yeah. I got you, man. You did the integrity. Let's see. Is there any chance of doing a COVID?
We did. Yeah, there are some COVID questions in the poll. I haven't read all of the well, that's not true. We went over quite a few questions on one of the odds and on Inside the Numbers a couple of weeks ago. That's basically done. I wouldn't change it at this point. This survey is done. We're just waiting on it. Even if I got like halfway there, I would probably start it because I don't think you guys would let me hold the bag. But we're not. What are we at right now? I don't have it up, but I think we're at like 2 or something. We're at like a third, a little over a third of the way there, maybe something like that. I don't know, but once we get generally closer, then we'll do it. And Robert and I were talking, and we fully understand people don't have the money to do a monthly poll. That's why really the locals revenue is going to contribute to that, so we can get it to a monthly poll.
Yes.
And then also it will be the very first start of a basically what is not consumer sentiment, because we are talking about the universe of registered voters, but it's like a registered voter confidence index, so, but economic confidence index for registered voters, which will be really cool. And the way I did this was kind of phrase it the way because 100 equals 1985 in the consumer confidence index, but they asked the question about who feels better, and it's an actual percentage. So from there, we're able to figure out how a level can be calculated. But you're going to get an actual break. So 35% feel great, 35% feel okay, and about their current situation and their future situation. I've been dying to get an economic confidence index of some sort that's trackable for a long time. I actually wish we had started this a while ago, but we didn't, and but a lot of it is packed with bills that are currently coming, and we want to make sure that they get started before, like, they're going to move on HR 1, guys. They're going to move on it. So if we want to be able to put our input into this discussion, we got to get a move on it. We do. All right, go ahead.
All right. So you tied those two questions together.
Yeah, there was a lockdown question and a mask question.
No. Before.
The referendum. That's another. Yes,
So
I didn't.
Can election integrity be done through a referendum? Which states would allow that?
So I did suggest this to several people who called to talk, and one example too, because North Carolina was one of those calls. Just keep bringing it up for a vote. So they took away your voter ID, which was just to keep putting it up. How many times did gay marriage fail? Mm-hmm. In the state of North Carolina, it went down in a blaze of glory. I mean, it got crushed. Yes. Even though, by the way, the PPP polls and all the rest of those pushers, they had it close. It was not. Did that stop them? No. Just kept coming back. They just kept coming back.
They believe if at first you don't succeed,
try again. The truth is, a lot of these Republican organizations waste a lot of your money. They waste a ton of your money. Yeah. The ACLU sued like after every executive order Donald Trump signed. They'll sue after something like a voter ID law is passed. And they are big. They play a big role in getting rid of voter integrity laws, the ACLU, and they do it under the guise as like, racial equality. It's a load of crap. And Republicans are not willing. Ken Paxton, if he didn't sue, if the Attorney General of Texas didn't sue on Biden's DACA order and the indefinite suspension of deportations, then nobody would have sued, Laura. Nobody would have sued. These people are they're worthless. Meanwhile, Democrats will get these organizations to sue, judge shop for the correct place to put these things, and then have everybody join the brief. Like everybody and their mother. Yep. The DCCC, right? Everybody and their mother will join the brief. All right, go ahead.
Joel wants to know.
But yes, really quick, the short answer to that is yes. Absolutely. Do it. For organize it. We've thought about it ourselves. And push these cowards to do it. You put these on the ballot, guys, they're going to pass overwhelmingly. You put voter ID on the ballot in state that doesn't have voter ID. Look at North Carolina. You put integrity deadlines on the ballot. These things are going to pass with such overwhelming support. The media is going to have a very hard time carrying water for their Democratic friends in the House, in anywhere. It's going to squat. When these margins get racked up, it's going to be really hard to argue that you're a white person who knows better for what's better for the black community than they know what's best for them.
All right, ready for Joel's question now?
Yeah.
All right. Could you talk about the dumb, stupid Republicans in state legislatures to pass one law between now and 2022? Would it be the integrity?
Yeah, I mean, it is more than a multiple, step thing, but The integrity deadlines are key. They're absolutely key.
All right, Rory wants to know, if Trump was to run in 2024, which we don't think so, but if he was, who would be a good vice president to go on the ticket?
Well, he is funny because he's like, saying he's not going to run, but they did respond to an inquiry about whether or not, if he did run, they would replace Mike Pence, and they said no.
I know they said no, but they better be lying about that. Because
Laura hates him now. No, they said no.
I don't think he would get reelected with Pence.
Ron DeSantis would be a great vice presidential pick. Ron would be a great pick. And I don't know where Kristi Noem stands outside of things like lockdowns, and I don't know where she stands on certain other things with war and trade. I know Ron would be good with both. He would. I mean, he was a service member, and for a while there, he had some questionable statements, but I think there are some people who under Trump kind of came around, but yeah, there are some. The problem Republicans have right now is I don't see a presidential candidate. I don't see one. 4 years from now, I don't see one. They have a lot of talented people, but I don't see a presidential pick.
Yeah.
And you know what, guys? You guys are killing yourselves because the Senate is filled with rhinos. They're filled with traitors to the cause, to like Republican cause. And they're not traitors to I don't mean that traitors to me, traitors to, they are traitors to what they claim to believe in. And a senator is a great vice presidential pick. I mean, they're usually very effective. And I don't see one. Even Ted Cruz. I don't see it. But go ahead.
Okay, that's fine. Somebody wants to know, Tony, how much money is needed to do a national poll or monthly poll, so we can get an idea of how much support we need to drum up?
I did about 6,000, which is about 3,000 a response. When you do mixed mode, okay, and I don't even care about talking about this, but for the most part, it could be, $5. What it breaks down to, anywhere depending on the mode, from $5 a response to over $20 a response, depending on what mode you do. I'm doing it for bare bones because I want to get it done, and then also too, I'm going to limit the modes that are more expensive. We did a review after the 2020 election. So, for instance, Minnesota was about 2.5 points more pro-Biden in our poll, or 2 points, I think, more pro-Biden than it was. Minnesota's a great example. Some of those other modes, just through that's where we would have been right on the money, if not for some of those modes. They're more live caller. I'm definitely talking about you. They're more expensive, and they're coming to the point where they're not worth it. Laura and I can do live caller less than a lot of others because the components we do use are done in-house, whereas most other people have to hire a call center. So for a live caller poll, they're going to charge you $20,000, a ballpark of $20,000, maybe more, depending on how many responses you want. But yeah, so I did $6,000 because I thought that even if it was to go over, because we're talking about a large sample, even if it was to go over, I'm not going to get murdered, I'm not going to be bludgeoned by it, but online, we've gotten to the point where we've reduced quite a lot on cost online without sacrificing accuracy at all. So that helps, but if you have to farm out your call center, you're going to get clobbered. It's a lot. It's a lot of money.
Zadun wants to know if Arizona is winnable for Republicans in the long term.
Yeah, I mean, Arizona's not gone yet. It's not for Republicans. Personal opinion, I think Trump probably carried Arizona.
I think so too.
Arizona, Georgia,
Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I think that he probably did. I mean,
because he kind of won.
Yeah.
That's okay, but hey.
But I'm saying even with the changes, he's without. Look, that subsample of what signatures matched and what didn't. The Democrats said no, 13%. While Republican experts who have looked at it say it's a lot more. but their own Democratic expert said that 13% of the subsample didn't match. That alone's enough to flip the state, Laura. It's alone. It's enough. This is what people don't understand. It doesn't take this huge correction in the rejection rate. It just doesn't. The rejection rates were very, very, very low, even though we dramatically increased mail-in voting. That doesn't make any sense. If you have more people doing it that way, especially for the first time, you should expect more errors. All right. But with, I don't think it's gone. I don't. And Arizona's a state that these people just can't poll. And we were off. We thought Trump was going to take it by a hair. But we were still closer than everybody else. This is something people have to, my critics try to twist.
Yes.
And yeah, like Nate, Biden plus 6 in Arizona, even though he won by 0.2, is still not more accurate than Trump plus 2. You understand what sampling errors mean, doofus?
No, he doesn't.
It doesn't. You thought the state was not competitive. It was outside of your sampling era. We were within our sampling era. Well within. We didn't say Trump was going to run away with it by 5 points. Outside of our 3% sampling era, we thought he would take it by about 2 points. Inside of our sampling era. It was not Biden plus 6. Same thing in Florida, not even close. 2.6 rounds up to Trump plus 3. Okay? That is not, again, what was his? Biden plus 6, right? Biden plus 11 in Michigan. Biden plus 13 in Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, whatever. By the way, we had Biden plus 2 in Michigan. Right on the money. And Biden plus Trump plus 1, 0.8 in Pennsylvania is still more accurate than Biden plus 11. You understand? Or Biden plus 9, whatever he may have heard it to at the end. That's still more accurate. We gave a much more, we were not outside our sampling era in any single state. And our national number was right on the money. Biden plus 4. So I don't know where the hell they come up with this crap. Where the hell somebody told me, he said that I was only right in 2 out of the 6 states we polled. First of all, we polled in more than 6 states.
Yeah.
We polled in Iowa, Ohio, Minnesota, Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona, Florida, and I'm missing one, Pennsylvania.
And wait,
I said Michigan and Wisconsin.
Arizona, Nevada. Did you do Nevada?
That's 8 states.
Did Nevada, didn't
We didn't do Nevada. We did not.
Nevada.
Nope. Nevada. No, we didn't. We did not. I said it was Biden would take it by like 2, and I didn't really want to waste the money on it. His people had tracked. It wasn't the leader in the survey. The leader was track Pennsylvania, and we wound up.
No, we knew
Texas, I polled but a while, and it was like Trump plus 8 or something, and I was like, "It's all I'm done. I'm not polling you."
That's right. Yeah. So really, if you count Texas,
Polled North Carolina, but not publicly. Remember, and that was Trump plus 2.4. Very close, but it was a solid 2.4. You have to realize you have to get to know these states, and it's like a solid 2.4 because there's just nowhere else for Biden to get votes from. It was actually closer than I thought it was going to be, but I said about 2 points, But again, that's 8 states. We were within the sampling era in every single one. Called the winner in all but 2, and our national number was dead on the money. Nobody has a record like that this year. Nobody. And this is, nobody can boast that.
Nobody but you.
Nobody but me. Nobody, baby. Nobody.
Oh, Lord,
yeah.
Look what I started.
So you can't, no, because even some of the other ones that are really good, they just didn't poll everywhere like we polled everywhere.
Hey, I got a cool email, by the way, while you were on. There's a student from Australia wants to interview you for his university.
Sure, I'll do stuff like that.
And he was like, I know it's kind of probably, it's always no if you don't ask them. Like, psh,
Are you kidding?
Make him do this.
Listen, we're just normal people. You know what I mean?
We're cool like that.
We're cool like that, man. It's just normal people. That's never going to happen to me. I don't care if I have 170,000 followers or I have 170 million followers. That's just never going to happen to me.
And don't worry, if he gets a little too high on his
She would smack me anyway.
Down so fast,
She would knock me down a peg anyway. You kidding me?
Goat wants to know, I understand if this is a loaded question.
Can I just finish on Arizona real
sorry.
quick? I'm sorry. Yeah, Arizona I do think is winnable, and if I had the charts uploaded, I'd show you why. We went to check out the video if you had missed it on the future of the Republican Party, and I went over what essentially was like the outline of a speech I gave to the Orange County Republican Club. What was it called? The Lincoln Club of Orange County. And another one, not to be confused with the Lincoln Project. And I wanted to go over that because I wanted to show the difference between California and the trend in the rest of the country. And in fact, California may just have been a little late in following that trend, because Garcia, even though the margin was closer, Garcia could not have held that seat. Because he stomped in the special, but it was 420 votes in the general. He would have lost it. My point is, he would have lost by 6 to 8 if that trend wasn't continuing. You know what I mean? Yeah, it was very close, but he would not have been able to hold on to that seat at all if it wasn't for the change in Hispanic voting groups. There's just no other way around it. You can't do that well in the suburbs of LA, where he did, Ventura. You cannot do that well unless you do better with independents, and that means doing better with Hispanics, because a lot of Hispanics in that area identify and register as independents, right? Mm-hmm. They'll tell you, I'm an independent, even though they typically vote Democrat. So, or even say they're like moderate or liberal, But the bottom line is, Garcia did much better with them. Now we're seeing that as the group that's driving Newsom's polling numbers down. But if you look at that show, you'll see I went over a couple of charts that I talked about during that speech. California isn't moving at the pace that you see some of these other states move toward Republicans, working class of all races, because they're losing their working class. They're losing their more moderate and conservative base. What's left is just more liberal. Anyone who doesn't have, first of all, non-white college is flooding out of that place. And they're going to Arizona, they're going to Nevada, and they're going to Texas. That helped Trump keep Texas. I got news for you guys. So did the swing in domestic Hispanics. I mean, look, we talk about it all the time, but it matters. Zapata County matters. And then Arizona was one of the major recipients of this group of people. And they like Trump. They're not in love with Republicans, which is why McSally went down so bad. There's this not Republican group leaving California. Remember these people, Laura? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they blended right in with this other group that was working class, no college degree, and they call themselves independent. And some of them say they're moderate, some of them say they're conservative, but they don't identify with a party. Trump was stomping Biden with this group by plus 32, and McSally was splitting it with Mark Kelly down the line. About even. They don't like Republicans. They like Trump. They liked what Trump had to say. They don't like Republicans. So that group is going to continue, from what we see with the census, to leave California, and that's going to help to offset some of the gentrification of the professional white class in places like Phoenix. So it's winnable. It is still winnable. And in fact, it's my personal opinion, but I think I've seen enough evidence to conclude that Arizona probably was Trump's. Not probably. I think it was Trump's. I do. Go ahead. It was. Laura goes, it was. I'm being more conservative, but you can't show me that many signatures that don't match. And that's not the only thing. But Next question.
All right. So I understand this is a loaded question. Do you think Democrats will push environmental issues to affect voting like they did COVID?
They're very good at wedge issues. Yeah, and this is something that I know a lot of Republicans make fun of, like, what's her name, AOC. I know they make fun of a lot of the stuff she says about the environment, and the fact of the matter is, she's the only one giving them any what's the word? Solutions. So there are people. It's very real that there are people out there that have have concerns about the environment, and it may be crazy what she says. We got to ban cows because they fart, stuff like that. It may be crazy, but she's the only one offering a damn solution. Republicans were amazing in Florida when it came to green issues. They never let Democrats outflank them on the environment in Florida. And the environment is a major issue in Florida all the time. Red tide, the ocean itself, the swamp, the Keys. I mean, you just name it. The environment is huge. And then we have even bass fishermen, very conservative outdoorsmen people. They care about the environment. Orange Lake, remember Twin Lakes? What happened with Twin Lakes? And Jeb Bush won praise galore for bringing back Twin Lakes. Every hillbilly with a fishing pole loved it because now we can pull 10-pounders out of Orange Lake again. Like largemouth. And Republicans understood not to let Democrats outflank them on this. But they did. Does anyone have any questions about California? Because I went over this with Barnes, but I did not go over this with these guys. The Emerson poll on Newsom.
Nobody asked about it yet. But I just want to comment on AOC. You mess with my steak, I'm going to have to hurt you, lady.
Oh my goodness, guys. My son showed me this video.
Oh, Lord.
All right, my 11-year-old son, he's like very curious kid. And he showed me this video. I guess they took some kind of cells from the cow or from a specific part of the cow and grew meat, that part,
a piece of steak,
and cooked it. So like as a way of saying, yeah, you can have steak without
cows,
like massive
There's got to be something wrong with that meat.
I got to be honest with you. It
steak.
Looked like unnatural to me. Like I would have been, it looked good. But it looked like I would have been afraid to put it in my body. They literally grew meat. It was weird. It looked like meat, muscle, tissue, it looked like meat. It looked just like you would see it if you went into Publix or Harris Teeter or whatever you got by you. It just wasn't right.
Not right. No.
It just was unnatural to me. So what's the general consensus?
Lisa said anything lab grown is unnatural.
It's not right, Lisa. It's not right. It looked, I don't know. Something felt like I felt wrong, I did.
Christina has a bunch of like sick looking faces.
Yeah.
Hadaway said they're cultured cells, which is interesting.
Would anybody eat this food?
God, somebody said.
Yeah, very much playing. Yeah, that kind of stuff bothers me too. It does. And I'm a forward thinking. I'm very I love science. I mean, forward thinking. But I have a line. You know what I'm saying? Let me just bring up this Newsom poll before you bring up the next thing. All right. If you guys haven't seen this, we went over it on What Are the Odds, but I'd like to go over it again. This is Emerson. This is Spencer at Emerson College. He did the poll for somebody, and he said, regardless of the recall effort, which was closer, I think it was like 44 no, 42 yes, or 46 no, 42 yes. It was very close, 2 to 4 points, which in California, by the way, that's a coin toss. That is going to be a coin toss. Very smart for Newsom to try to brand it as a Republican recall, he's calling it. A partisan Republican recall. Very smart. However, with these numbers, it's beyond just being a partisan issue for him. There's not enough Republicans to drive up the percentage of people that want somebody new to over 58%. By the way, if you're watching right now, I know you were in North Carolina taking a break to go see your son. But if you're a certain somebody who was on the call with me the other day about potentially running for governor of California, you should probably pay attention to this poll, because this is exactly what I was saying to you. Why is the recall a coin toss, but 58.3% want someone new? Because they don't have a viable alternative that they see right now. So when they are asked, okay, do you want somebody new? And they say yes, but then they'll also say maybe I'll vote no on the recall or I'm undecided. It's because they just don't know what the alternative is going to be. If you were to say, you know what, even if you run as a Republican, because you're socially liberal, but you're fiscally conservative, you know I'm talking about you if you're listening, all right? That works in a state like that if you have somebody who's going to be ousted, because what Democrats are going to do is this: if recall yes goes through, he's going to try to hand select somebody who can finish the job that the rent seekers have paid him to do. All right. And that person will be tarnished by the recall effort. Because for those who don't know, if he is recalled, it's not like Gray Davis. He's done. He's off the ballot. All right. He'll have to select somebody new. And then that person will be tarnished. The left, the Harris wing, who wants the Newsom Biden wing gone, they will put a bunch of people in, and they'll start gnawing at each other, like Maya Vigorosa gnawed at him, and how there was another Asian candidate who took another 6 or 8% at the time when Newsom was elected. The problem was John Cox screwed everything up because Travis Allen was going to squeak right by. He was. But anyway, until Trump, you killed it. Anyway, I digress. If this person was like more of a very likable, high name recognition, genuine, easy on the eyes for the ladies, all right, a focus of jealousy for men who are like, yeah, that guy's cool, all right, so you know I'm talking about you, all right, I'm just saying, this is why those numbers, if somebody like that was in, you would have saw yes with more percentages, because in the mind of voters, they'd say, you know what, I'm going to vote yes because so-and-so is an alternative, all right? And instead, they don't have a real alternative. The John Coxes aren't going to cut it. That's not going to cut it. People aren't going to be excited by John Cox and say, yeah, I'm going to vote yes because it's John Cox. That's not. I'm throwing out Gavin Newsom for this white old businessman. No, that's not going to cut it. The partisan lean of the state will still carry the day for Democrats regardless. And whether it's the left's candidate or it's Newsom's pick, if yes was to pass, which would be more difficult, if there's a viable out-of-the-box alternative, more people will vote yes. Mm-hmm. It's that simple.
And you are the perfect person to sway minds. And if I knew personally I had somebody...
I'm just spitballing here. Maybe someone of Asian descent, but who is fluent in English, who can cut ads in Spanish in Southern California. I'm just saying. I'm just spitballing here. All right. I'm just saying. Nobody knows that. That's not too much. I could think of 5 people who fit that bill, Laura. All right.
I could kick him right now.
Don't confirm or deny anything. I could think of 5 people. Robert likes the idea better of running as an independent. Mm-hmm. Robert likes that better. I don't think it would much matter. Frankly, I don't think it would much matter. All right. So with that, re-elect Governor Newsom, 41.7. Time for someone new, 58.3. If you look inside the Emerson poll, which I'm not going to do, but if you look inside of it, Spencer found much what we found. Hispanics are in the high 30s at this point with this guy, low 40s. That's bad, very bad. And then Asians are among the most loyal to Gavin Newsom we found. It looks like Spencer had that too. But there is fracturing there. Robert's right. There is fracturing. You don't need to do a lot of damage. You just need to do enough damage, and work the... fight the good fight on later. But, so there we have it.
You should see some of our fans. Who are you speaking about? We're all friends here, and we'll keep it a secret.
See, guys?
No.
I didn't give away too much. No, I can't tell because I don't want to spook them away. But
honestly, though, in order to make a decision between
it's a hard decision to make,
and being stuck with the candidate that you have,
you need a viable alternative.
You need to know and see you need a tangible individual in order to compare
in their minds
and make that right decision. Yes. Just from a pollster perspective.
Yep. This is the way it is.
You need visual.
And it needs to be a likable person.
Yes,
Someone
obviously.
likable. All right.
I'm just saying.
These regular, Cox-like candidates, they don't have a prayer. It's too blue. The state is just too blue. All right. We're not even in the days of Schwarzenegger anymore. We're not. It has to be somebody. It has to be the right person, and then they have to realize they're going into this with their eyes wide open. You're not going to win a majority. You're going to win with 38 to 42% of the vote. If you're lucky. You can get 5 more points than Donald Trump. You can do it. I'm telling you.
This individual could also bring out the suburban.
Yeah, he's going to do better with
Karens.
suburban housewives.
Yeah.
He's going to do better. He's just going to do better with suburban professional women.
I personally like him.
Yeah, and it has nothing to do with politics. I mean, really. I mean, he would do better. He's very likable, all right? And, the left will try to smear him,
Yeah, of course.
but it's not going to work. It's just not going to work, especially because he could raise money, and he'll be able to tell his own story first, up front, and soften his edges, All right, so with that, you have another one?
Oh, I'm sure I have tons of them.
Yeah, because I went to the, we came back break for like 5 minutes late, so.
Is Mississippi a winnable state for Democrats? What about Kansas?
Some of these states, not yet, but some of these states, Kansas, you have to realize there are some of those states out there, which is why they thought Kansas was winnable in 2014 for them, with Greg Orman pretending to be an independent, but he was a Democrat. Mm-hmm. It really wasn't close, but they have a very long history of progressivism. That's what, any historian would probably tell you. But this is why I'm trying to separate for you the difference between populist and progressives. Because their alliance with the progressive movement in their ancestry was really driven by populism. These were populist farmers and populist workers, and that is where that strain runs through the Progressive Party and where Democrats used to have some strength in these areas. But they abandoned their populist roots, so you can't get like a former House Senate Majority Leader anymore, right? From areas like that, like a Tom Dash or something like that out of a state like that. Mm-hmm. But, the bottom line is Pat Roberts went on to spank Orman. By the way, Kansas was blue on Nate Silver's map in 2014. Okay, for the record, for posterity, he actually thought the polls were right and Greg Orman was going to win. It was a bit of a joke. I mean, we never had it. Never. It never went past likely Republican or leans. Maybe it leaned at one point, but at that time, lean was 5 points on our model. Remember?
Yes.
Because now we have a much more tiered model. Slightly lean, likely, solid. So, all right.
But I wanted to.
That was a good question, though, because, a state like Mississippi, large population of black voters. What they're going to try to do is basically the Georgia model, create a metropolitan area. Republicans will fall into this trap because they believe, they don't, they do, some do believe that the economy matters more than anything, and that if they just bring jobs, and with these companies comes a change of culture, and they don't seem to understand that. Goods producing sectors will produce more conservative and populist electorates, okay? Service producing sectors, financial sectors produce more liberal, elitist, professional class voters. And Republicans are dumb because some of it is corruption and some of it's stupidity. And I don't mean corruption even in the normal sense. Well, yeah, in some cases, I do mean it like that. But money, money. Yes. A corporation comes to them, says, I'm going to contribute this much to your campaign. You'll create 250 jobs. Metro area will be booming in 10 years. North Carolina's having that problem now. Georgia's having that problem now. Phoenix, we were just there. They were praising how many jobs they brought to Phoenix. The one guy's talking about the Nike plant. Like, I'm like, are you stupid?
You want in your country,
for every, right. It's not a whole lot of workers putting shoes together. Machines do most of it. It's professional class people. You're bringing in Democratic voters, but they didn't even understand that, right? They didn't even understand it. They thought it was going to be like 350 workers, like nailing the soles of shoes on the bottom of Nikes. I mean, it was archaic stuff. All right.
Somebody would like you to mention again where to donate for the polling.
It's in the video description, but I
but
can
the links
recite it
are
right
up.
now.
I-
The link
YouTube-
works.
YouTube breaks your links all the time.
It's big. All right, I'll fix it. But it's Big Data Poll. Right on Big Data Poll, you can go to the website. It's Big Data Poll /donations/donation hyphen. They did the form. I wish it wasn't hyphen. So bigdatapoll.com /donations/donation form. Yeah, I can't like tweet it out though and put it on the screen, but actually I can. I just don't know how
If
yet.
you go to bigdatapoll.com, and just select.
It's not on the front page yet.
Oh, you didn't.
No, there's just an article about the public polling project. There's media coverage stuff on it, but it will be. I'm going to make this much
Slacker.
easier. It's on the Does Facebook break the link?
I don't know.
The YouTube description, the link should work.
No, because they can't even do the what you call it.
Well,
It's the portal.
I'll tweet it out too.
Yeah.
bigdatapoll.com /donations/donation hyphen form. Okay. And the reason why it was like generic and not public polling project is because we don't plan on raising money beyond that one poll. So I didn't change the name. If we do and the URL changes, we'll put a 301 redirect on it. So if you were to click on the old link anyway, it's going to bring you to the new link. But there will be today a page for the public polling project. And there's explaining what it is, explaining the track record, laying out the track record, and then where you can fund it still. I'm going to put your donations up on a wall so it looks like a GoFundMe kind of experience. But we will cloud your last name. All right, so some of you, we intentionally left off your cities. Some of you, because if you didn't put it in willingly, in Stripe or Venmo or whatever, Venmo doesn't give a whole lot of information, then we didn't have it. But we are also thinking about, you didn't have the chance to select whether you wanted it anonymous or not. So if you gave through Venmo first or PayPal first, you didn't have a chance to say whether it was anonymous. But it is cool, some of the comments you guys leave when you leave the donations, and people will be able to see that. More will be inclined to give when they see how enthusiastic your comments are. So we'll obscure your names. That's what we'll do. If anyone does see anything on that wall and they're like, oh, I wish that wasn't there, contact us immediately and we will change it. We'll make the donation anonymous, and it'll just say anonymous, Salt Lake City, Utah, whatever. Who knows? All right.
Just anonymous. I think this is a betting question, but it always makes me nervous when they ask these questions because I know money is involved.
Yeah. Robert will answer that. No problem. No.
What are the odds that HR 1 passes?
It's going to pass the House.
Yes, but
It's
when
that
will this-
in the Senate. Honestly, because I don't trust Republicans at all, and they're going to try to do a +1 with Kamala Harris, and right now it's probably 50-50.
Wow.
It
That's
really
scary.
is.
Let
It
me-
depends on.
Sorry.
It really does. It's probably 50-50. To make this kind of a change, Laura, without the filibuster, without the 60 vote rule, it's just incredible.
It's scary.
Incredible.
Yeah.
But I told these idiots that Democrats would do this the minute they got a chance. Of course they were always going to do this. All right, rock on.
Lemon Minty wanted you to know that her son was contacted to vote in Arizona, like constantly, even though he already voted in California.
Yep.
That was the issue. He voted in California only, but these colleges hound these kids.
Yep.
To vote even though they're not residents.
We found so many of them. Same thing with Michigan, right? Michigan State. It was unbelievable. Even though, by the way, many of them never requested a ballot. They had many of these had no intention to vote. We spoke to illegal immigrants who were hounded to vote. They ended up on the voter rolls because they got an ID, right? In some states, they can get driver's licenses. And they were contacted to vote. They were immediately put onto with motor voter, and they were contacted. I mean, the possibilities are endless, and that's why when people say, "Well, it wouldn't be significant," oh, you have no idea how many angles you can come at this. And you do a little here, a little there, a little here, a little there. I mean, a little everywhere. And that adds up to a lot of votes. And especially when you have corrupt public sector unions who are willing to either help or turn a blind eye at the very least. All right, with that, 110, I guess we'll boogie. Yeah, share it, share it with your friends. Let's get this number up so we can get going, because they're going to move on this puppy. I'm telling you, they're going to move on it. And if we want to have our say in what the country thinks about this bill, dissecting this bill, then we gotta go now.
The reality of it.
Well, yeah, I'm not gonna we don't prejudge though. But I already know. I will tell you right now, the major provisions, most of Americans overwhelmingly oppose, and I already know that's going to be the case because we've polled it already. We've been polling it actually for years. Many of these things, voter ID, signature verification. It's like beating a dead horse. Even though what I'm concerned about is whether or not what people think about the role the federal government even has in elections, which is one of the questions tailoring. This is what the Constitution says. Do you think the federal government should take the power away from the states? Thus taking it away from you, but we didn't word it like that because you don't want to be biased. But in essence, waiting on what legal minds had to say, what the point the bill is, that is what the ultimate goal is, to really nullify the National Voter Registration Act and take the power away from the states. That's explicitly. Oh, another big deal. Anyone who sues, they want it to be relegated to the D.C. court. For people who don't know too, there is a special circuit court that deals only with federal issues. I mean, this is crazy. If you are Ken Paxton and you want to sue, it goes to the 5th District. The hell is this?
You're going to kill me for saying this, but to end with a funny, thank you, Jake, realm of the Republic, they're talking about putting Kamala Harris on Mount Rushmore, but they can't figure out how to put her heels behind her head.
Oh, God.
I can say it because I'm a woman. He won't say it, but I...
Nope. I will say this, though. Valerie Jarrett, I did tweet in response to her because it was just like she opened the door. They're openly calling her the boss. Obama's people. Valerie Jarrett is Obama's people. They're openly calling Kamala Harris the boss. And she's like, oh, she's so boss with the heels, And I was like, it's probably not smart to reference Kamala Harris's heels. No. All right? Probably not. And she knows that because she knows what they call her. Everybody does. And she knows why.
She knows it's true.
She knows why her boss's wife doesn't like her. All right? So, I mean, that's it.
That's what you get for laying around all the time.
But that's, but Obama's people don't like Joe Biden, and they used him. Everybody wanted Kamala Harris. And when I say everybody, I mean that neoliberal and Obama era media, they wanted Kamala Harris. Go back to the coverage she got when she announced. Nate Silver even said that she would win the working class, even though there was no evidence of it at all. Nate Silver's website was pushing her. Everybody wanted her. The problem was they're tone deaf and they don't understand what Americans think of people like her. And she was incredibly unpopular. She didn't get to a primary. She didn't even get to a primary. When the voters of Iowa and New Hampshire, they want to see you up close. And when they see a candidate like her up close and reject her, and even Florida, she was deeply unpopular in Florida. We polled that. After she made the comment about that little girl was me to Joe Biden, she tanked. Because Joe Biden was the most liked Democratic candidate in the state of Florida. He was the most liked. And when that happened, even 30-something percent, I think it was, 35% of Democrats said they didn't have a favorable view of her. She tanked herself with that comment.
Well, because also let's just say, how
they saw what it was.
No, but they're feminists on their side. They're crazy feminists over there. And on their side of the aisle, and even they don't like that she banged her way to the top.
Oh my God, Laura, you're gonna get us. This is a children's show, Laura.
Hey, I didn't say
It is what it is. She used a sexual relationship with Willie Brown to have a political career. That is, look, I know everyone tiptoes around this, but our vice president used her she used a sexual relationship to build a political career. And that is, look, I don't care what you do in your personal life, but what I do care about is when you blur those lines and you make that about your, yes, and then you try to make yourself a role model. It does. Does any parent in their right mind in this country want their daughter to do that to advance her career? Come on. With a man who's married and double her age. Come on. More than, right? Willie was double when it started.
Adultery,
yeah, I mean, just, I don't care. I mean, honestly, don't even care about that. When it comes to political leadership,
no, but I'm saying
what I care, sometimes, you know, great leaders can be sexual deviants and flawed. That's just the reality. What I do care about, though, is when you make that how you get to when you do it for power, because it says something about you when you do it for ambition, and that is it's not a good characteristic.
There's no low for you.
There's no low. There's no low.
If you're willing to let somebody invade your person, for political gain or power, whatever you want to call it.
So you're willing to basically sell your body, but you're not to the powerful to rise to the top. You're not willing to sell your services when you're in office.
Yeah. Okay. Right.
I just don't look. I'm allowed my own opinion.
You know, I mean, money's even better. At least
that's what I'm saying.
For it, you know.
Exactly. And by the way,
call it how I see it.
Because of that relationship, she committed a no-no when she was running against the attorney general over there, or the district attorney. I'm sorry.
Yes, district.
There were limits with how much money you could spend. It wasn't like, you know, a campaign finance law, but there were limits to how much you could raise and spend in that. She even pledged to not, you know, blow past that limit, and she did go past it. I mean, really. And it was because of that relationship. She would never have raised all of that money in that race for DA on her own. She raised that money because of Willie's machine. All right. With that, and I know there's so many puns that you can't help it.
It's just too.
She blew past it because of her Willie. All right. Anyway.
Anyway, we love
with
you
that,
guys.
yep.
We
As always, guys.
Support.
As always, yep. Don't forget to, you can follow me on Twitter at peoples_pundit. If you're gone from Twitter and you're on Gitmo Life, which we've been telling you to do, you can follow me there on at peoples_pundit, and Laura at Laura Barris, which is in my profile if you can't spell it.
Join our locals.
Don't forget, locals is great, guys. All right, so it's peoplespundit.locals.com. All right, join the locals community. Subscribe to YouTube, hit the notification bell so you know when we're going to go live. If you're a locals member, it's going to notify you because we always tell it to notify you. Facebook watchers, even if you don't watch on Facebook, but you still have a Facebook account, we would very much appreciate it if you would mosey on over to Facebook in your free time and hit the like button on People's Pundit Daily. With that, I'm out. I'm out like trout. Don't forget to share that donation form, guys. Let's get this done, because believe me, HR1 is coming. It's coming. All the best, folks. We love you. We'll see you on Friday at 11 a.m.
For reals.
For reals.
Not like that.
How much you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be, I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love, because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
We can get on a plane and take a one-way ride, steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to spear for a night, just to give in to the need and leave it all behind.
'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come